Call to order the Fire District Board meeting of August 21st. This week, call the roll.
Aldrich is absent. Beckman?
Here.
Fox? Here. Verplank?
Here.
Phelps?
Yes.
Pullen?
Here.
And Norton.
Here. Okay, yeah. Okay, you rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chris, would you call the roll, please?
Oh.
You called the roll before the meeting?
No.
Before they said the pledge of allegiance.
Oh, that's right.
We'll do it.
Okay, I have my grandchildren this weekend.
You're excused.
Would you please silence your phones and please don't text during the meeting as it's going to be open meeting. Could we have approval of the agenda, please?
I make a motion to approve the agenda of July 17th.
I'll second it.
Wait a minute.
Is there any discussion?
We're approving the agenda today,
That's not
right?
It's the 20th, 21st today, isn't it?
Of August.
Of August.
Yeah.
You were looking at the minutes.
You said July 17th.
Yeah.
We know what you meant.
Well, that's my first page.
You were looking at the minutes instead of the agenda. Or
Oh,
did
you
I
know.
say the minutes?
No, you said agenda, and he said approve the minutes of July 17th. We're going backwards today.
I got it right.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
Holy cow.
Just printed ahead.
What happens when you're a bunch of senior citizens?
Dyslexic meeting here.
I want everybody to walk backwards around the table.
I'll start over.
Could we approve the agenda for this meeting, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for August 21st, 2023.
I'll support.
Is there any discussion?
Wait, the July 17th was the minutes. There's no date on the agenda.
It's for this meeting.
This meeting.
Yeah, oh, never mind.
It makes it unanimous, I think.
You know, maybe we should
Your
just
turn,
adjourn.
Kathy.
You know, the sandbar. I don't know.
I think I better go downstairs.
I'll second that.
We're usually better than this, guys.
Right? Okay.
Wow.
So could we vote to approve the agenda, please? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, could we approve the minutes
I'll
of
do
the
that,
July
too.
17th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 17th.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, public comment. Do we have any public comment from the public today? No public comment. All right, moving on. Could we have a request for payment?
Make a motion to approve the payments for $200,382.14.
Is there any discussion? Okay, so, can we have a roll call?
Jan, the second on that?
Dan?
Okay, good, quick. All right, Phelps?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Beckman?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
Pullen?
Yes.
And Norton.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. Can we have a financial report, Peter?
Okay. I don't know what page number that is, my whole front right through it. So on the revenue side, basically, the only revenues, we had some inspection fees, cost recovery. We did receive one of the grants that Greg and Lieutenant knows, and the sale of an old sunken fireboat. That's the revenue of $51,000 for the month of August through today. And the expenses are just as presented. I mean, everything's in line across the board. I don't know if anybody has any questions on any particular line items on the expense side or the revenue side.
I have a question. Could we please have a accounting of that sale of that fireboat? Because I really don't understand how that all works.
Well, you're not alone.
I'm sure I'm not.
So, some of you may remember the boat that was built, unfortunately it's sunk. The boat number is 2192. Boat sunk. Subsequently, the insurance company determined they're not going to fix the boat, that it was underwater, that it should be replaced, and they replaced it. So, we did a build order. It was about 18 months to build a boat. Well, then it came time to what do we do with the boat that sunk, which we were still using. So I wanted to turn the asset over to the insurance company, which is MMRMA. It was our trailer. They owned the boat, and they paid to replace that, $135,000. So they said, what would you do with this? And I said, I think the boat's got life left in it, I would sell it, I wouldn't turn it over to a salvage company. They said, well, how would we go about that? I said, well, I'd list it with one of the brokers. They asked me to manage that. So I reached out to Wolf Marine and somebody in Holland, and the insurance company said, well, why don't you just go to the first guy you talk to, Wolf Marine. Okay. 7 months transpired. So I got the agreement, sales agreement from the sales company to sell it, the broker, and it was a blank contract. Storage fees were to be deducted, and it wasn't filled in. I said, I can't sign this. I shouldn't be signing it. Send it to the insurance company. The insurance company claims director contacted me and said, well, according to our legal department, they can't own the asset, we own it. So I said, okay, well now what? Well, would you sell it for us and give us the proceeds, less the trailer, any fees? I said, well, I can't sign a blank sales agreement that I have. I'm not doing that. So they directed me to take it elsewhere. I took it to Holland, it got listed and it got sold. Check was made out to us, less the commission of the broker. So now what I'm waiting for is the motor had to have the battery cables, the boat had to have the batteries cables replaced. They'd absorb water. They're losing amperage, so we had to hire Yacht Basin to replace those cables. That bill gets deducted from their proceeds. So once I have that bill, then I'll deduct it and deduct our trailer and send them the proceeds. That will come before you next month. So you'll know exactly what it is. So you know where a check's going. But you were paid and they covered your cost of the trailer.
Yeah.
Plus $1,000. So and we had the trailer 2 years. But in the end it worked out well. Very unusual matter of fact, I sat in a 2-day training session with the legal director, Stark Kincaid, and Tracy Cole. I was at the table with them for 2 days. I said, I've never heard or seen anything like this before. She said, yeah, we've never done it either. And I said, okay. Is that, yeah.
Okay. It's crazy, but.
Is that, I don't know, no one's ever heard of that. I reached out to a number of other insurance companies, some vice presidents. They said, what? So, it'll be handled.
Good. I would have kept it all, just for my time and trouble. But-
Just one question, Peter, and I think I can answer it myself, but our special events is at 41%. Is most of our events over by Is it the end of summer, or we just,
Well, you had Fourth of July in Venetian, the biggest one, and I'm thinking the next one was a Halloween parade.
Oh, there's probably 6 more.
but those are the
Bridgewater-
big ones, right?
Yeah, Halloween will be big.
So we're not really out of whack here,
No.
just where it falls. Okay,
It's in line.
okay.
Yeah. Event planning hours you'll see on there. I have had to limit my other 2 people that help with this because of time constraints, and I've been handling it. So you'll see on there, event hours, that planning is predominantly me.
Okay, so we finished with your financial?
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions about anything?
Check the vote.
It's best to follow orders. Okay, now for fire chief's comment?
Yes, thank you. Not a lot of things that stand out here. We're up from last year, just under 2%, down from last month. We're at 102 calls for July. What has increased, and it's probably no surprise to this board, is the motor vehicle incidents. From 30 last year, we're up to 38. Obviously, the traffic detours have added to that, but not as bad as we thought. So, I think we had our first incident at Old Allegan and Blue Star since the stop sign was put up there. So it was a property damage only, there were no injuries, but nonetheless, it was attributed to that intersection. So, Old Allegan and Blue Star. So we'll be changing that next month. I already talked to you about special events, personnel hours, page 26, and I talked to you about motor vehicle incidents, and that pretty much concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Short one.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, so grants, none, certification.
So Riley Capel has obtained Certified Fire Instructor 1. Big deal, really, nowadays. He's one of our, he's now an officer, a very young officer. He's a sergeant, and he obtained Certified Fire Instructor. Again, that's not easy. Is it okay if we jump back up to the monthly report for fire prevention?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I thought you were done.
So jumping up to that, Bureau of Fire Prevention, pretty much nothing is out of the ordinary here. 26 short-term rentals, everything else pretty much is as it typically is each week. And that's page, I don't know, page 12, I think. Whole punched out too. Michigan-wise, 5% decrease in deaths year-to-date, 5% increase in fires. Those are typically the things that we try to report to you. Everything else is the same. Victims are typically males, location, living rooms. So I can see on this one, there's been a surge in bedrooms as far as location and cost. So that is all my chief comments.
All right, okay, moving on to unfinished business. We really kind of covered this, didn't we?
Yes, ma'am.
And cost recovery update?
Yeah, we have 2 difficult cost recovery situations. I kind of briefed the board on it last month. The particular case where the lawyer was here at the meeting, Mr. Vanderlip's attorney, made an offer. He said he'll pay for the firefighters, he will not pay for the officers, and he will not pay for the trucks. So he'll pay for firefighters, and he will pay for foam. Foam alone was $1,350. So when you look at Grascup, who assisted, who had a bill, and you look at Ganges that had a bill in Saugatuck, he hasn't paid any of them yet. So I'm going to try to resolve that this week. Talking with the attorney, he said, you know, what do you wanna do, because you got lawyer fees on top of all this.
Yeah.
So what point do you just call it a day? And there was a comment made, well, that's why it's important to have all the cost recovery things the same. They are the same. They're exactly the same, it's the same language. Problem is, our cost recovery ordinance is within our boundaries. This was mutual aid. So then we fall under a countywide mutual aid agreement, which gives us the teeth to seek recovery. And this is what they're willing to pay for, and this is what we were asking for, because that was our costs.
But wouldn't Ganges have to agree to whatever he offers, and really, we don't have a say in it? Or the county?
I would hope, no, county wouldn't be involved, but I would think that out of respect to mutual aid, they would not make those monetary decisions for us. It's a very, very expensive call. It wiped out this department. It was almost $8,000, not to mention the fatigue that we endured. And the chief in Ganges knocked his from $3,000 down to $700. They see that,
Yeah.
so how am I supposed to fight that? So it's a very awkward situation, but I don't think, had they, my opinion is, unless you order me otherwise, I'd say I'm not taking what you think we should get, Ganges, because you're not collecting the money, they gotta give it done. We'd go to Ganges and say, you pay us. We wouldn't do that. What I was going to do, if they refused to pay anything, I would go to Ganges to pay for the phone. But where do you, well, I'm not gonna pay this, I'm not gonna pay that.
Well, it kind of dilutes the whole purpose of the cost recovery when you just
Precisely.
throw a bill at them, they're like, I'm only gonna
Precisely.
pay that much.
And then, here's one thing I'm working on right now, Eagle would not make this punitive. Eagle would not impose fines because we were collecting. We didn't collect. So I'm working with Eagle to say, now what do we do? What can you do? What are you willing to do?
Well, if we're gonna only take 25%, then we gotta raise our rates like 5 times.
Well, the lawyer already
Really
said,
what it's worth.
lawyer already said we're overpaid. $35 for a
And I'm sure he's
firefighter.
not.
Yeah, really.
So it's the lawyer's world, but it doesn't mean you have to settle for it. We haven't settled for it. However, I'm gonna see what Eagle will do with this and report back to you. Then there's one other one that I was told 10 days ago that they were gonna pay. It was another illegal burn. That was, I think, $4,500. And, where they started the fire left, burned down a building. It was all illegal. That's where we're at.
Okay. Moving on, new business, the MMRMA state pool distribution received $2,238.
So we got money.
Yeah, a lot of good news.
Page 13, you know, you've got an extra $2,200, which is, the first $50,000 of claims are in a state pool. And we pay for that, and if we don't use it, then we get reimbursed a portion. You can see in that second paragraph, the second sentence of the paragraph is recommendation of the state pool committee. I'm on that committee. So I'm involved in these recommendations. I recommended more money to go to Saugatuck, however, it didn't go over.
The try.
How come?
I don't know. I'm just one little P there. Bye.
Okay, then the Gerald and Jeanette second foundation donation, this is the second installment?
Yes, ma'am.
Of $7,797.23.
Yes.
So,
Three more of those coming?
Second of 5.
Second of 5, yes.
okay,
Don't we
then-
have to earmark that specifically for
Yeah,
something specific?
and that's why I wanted to bring it to the board. I assume you would like me to send a thank you letter, because I think Michelle did last year, I can handle this year, and then, what do you want to use it for? What's your guidance on this?
I think that's up to you, but there were guidelines that they gave to us on how it's gonna be used.
Last year, we used it for the completion of the new engine, and I would recommend that as well, because we're still not done with it. And we were gonna do a dedication or in memory of Gerald Beckett. And I saw the nephew Sunday at the memorial service,
Yeah.
and he asked me about it. I've been trying for 3 months to get the truck in the shop, but we'll have that put on there. So with your blessing, we'll use it for 2110, the engine. We'll use this money, the $7,700, towards completing the new engine we had built. For equipment, still not done yet. In service, but not complete.
Thank you.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a funding approval request. I guess we don't have enough hose anymore, after we went through hose testing, to have enough hose for all the trucks, so we're gonna have to buy some new hose.
Yeah, we've held up for about 5 months now. There is nothing on the shelf with that big hose, large diameter one, there's zero.
Didn't pass the test?
Nothing. We lost 6 lengths last year. A length was almost $1,000.
So what's the cost of the hose, or rough idea?
We're right about $30,000. That's what we need.
Okay, so we'll need a motion.
I tried to lay it out for you right here, but it's about 30,000 true.
Okay, so if somebody wants to read the sample motion. Eric, somebody?
Sure, I'll make the motion to authorize the fire chief to purchase replacement fire hose compliant with NFPA 15 and 1962 as specified, and not to exceed the amount of $30,000 with a 15% contingency.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion by Beckman, and I had a second by Fox. Is there any discussion, any more discussion about hose? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Beckman?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Phelps?
Yes.
Poland?
Yes.
And Norton?
Yes.
Passes 6-0, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. Now we're gonna have a discussion on capital expenditures to replace 2172 and 2173.
Just a discussion to keep it in the back of your mind. Years ago, the board had decided to take the direction of not buying used vehicles at the time. And we started replacing everything with the exception of 2112, that engine that was used. We have trucks that are 2015 and 2017. They're the first responder vehicles. They're getting to a point where we've got to think about what are we going to do in the future. No immediate action.
Expedition?
Yes. And we're not going to go with expeditions anymore because they're too easily overloaded. So what I want to suggest is something to consider is we don't know what path we're going to take on this basic life support, if we're going to transport or not. I believe the township wrote a draft letter they want us to review, supporting transport. We just did 6-month review of ALS, Advanced Life Support, no-shows, and we've got about 7 or 8 of them. So people have to decide, what do we want? There's just simply no ambulance available. Then you guys take it, or what if they're not available? So that's what's happened, 0 level. So what I wanted to bring this up is be thinking about, I think what you should consider doing is, if we're going to replace a Ford Expedition, let's replace it with a used one we can transport with. We've had them before. We've had them before. And then when we make the decision and we try to have time to appropriately absorb this, then we can decide, okay, 2-year build, then let's plan on building a new one. Then you got a new one in 2 years, and you got a used one for a secondary. But I think you might want to consider not replacing a Ford Expedition with an Expedition or pickup truck. Replace it with something you can transport. We would try to find an ambulance from the fire department. not from AMR or Life Ambulance that's been, you know,
Beat up.
has 10 million hours on it, because it's running all the time. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So, no action required, I'm just asking you to be thinking about what we need to do, because we're at a point where we've got all these expenditures and we only have so much money. What are we going to do?
What about grants for those?
We can, my experience with writing grants for trucks, writing grants for boats, I think we've gotten 2 trucks, or 1 truck in the 22 years I've been here,
Yeah, the old heavy rescue, that went.
and that truck went to Chile.
My
So-
question is
So
whether
you've only
this,
been approved for one truck during all that time?
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
It's not, there's so much competition in getting a truck, and trucks aren't prioritized, fireboats aren't prioritized, so it's way down on the list.
But Chief, wouldn't this be a little different, because what we're doing is we're gonna provide another service that we currently don't supply.
Good
It's a
point.
matter of, you know, we're not just getting another truck, we're changing the way we do business here.
my question relates to that, and that is, it seems to me to be mission creep. This is not in our mission. We should either amend that mission, have the jurisdictions weigh in on it, as apparently the township already has, which is terrific, before we start buying vehicles. I mean, it's, you know, because, like you say, two years down the road, we'd be making another decision whether to buy a new vehicle. All of a sudden, we're in the ambulance business. We're not in the ambulance business. That's the jurisdiction's responsibility. Until they graft it onto this fire district, it's outside of our mandate. It just is. I mean, whether we like it or not, or even, I mean, as we talked ad nauseum before.
What do you mean
The
by-
citizens think we do this now.
Yeah, they do.
But we
But
don't.
we need to disabuse them of that notion, because the I mean, we talked before, if we're gonna go into the ambulance business, we talked about, you know, going for a millage, which makes sense, because it's a whole new mission. Pay us for the new mission, and have the jurisdictions, I don't mean to point at you, but I mean, all 3 jurisdictions weigh in on that and say, yeah, we're good with that. So that when it comes time to go to the voters, we can say, it's not just your fire district with the pretty red trucks, it's all 3 jurisdictions saying,
Yes.
the area needs this, and the area is willing, the voters, the taxpayers of the area are willing to fund it. I mean, I'd be perfectly willing to go ahead and ask, you know, first approach the jurisdictions, and then assuming that basically Douglas and Saugatuck go in on this and say, yeah, we would support this, which I assume is sort of what Township has already said, or something close. Then we can go to the voters whenever we go.
Is that what the township said? Is that what, here, you
I
haven't
didn't
seen
finish
it?
reviewing this, but meeting with Tony Ship, Daniel, the manager, briefed me on it. He said they're very supportive of filling this void, because it's getting worse.
Yeah, but is that void a small void that we can fill without making a big ordeal about it?
Yeah, we have no way to transport.
But I mean, if we get one vehicle just
Yes.
to transport,
Yes.
then
In my opinion,
we're not automatically in the ambulance business.
we are, and there's very strict criteria, protocol for when we could transport. Has to exceed 20 minutes. It can't be just for any call.
Right.
There is medical protocol that we have to follow. So it's not an automatic, it's filtered. That's a good thing. So the way we see it is, when you're at 0 level with one ambulance company, and then you're relying on the other one, well, they gotta come all the way from Fenville to come there. I mean, the irony is, they're positioned right in Fenville, and Fenville Fire Department's running every day. We just heard it today, 2 of them. Ambulance is right there, and the fire department has to go.
Who makes the decision to send them in the ambulance to the hospital, like they did me? Who made that decision? Besides me saying, okay.
When they call 911, they follow protocol. so if they fit the protocol, if you call 911, it's either a 1, 2, or 3 category.
I didn't call 911.
Right.
Call here.
Yeah, then it's different.
Oh, dear.
So you end up with a situation where, you know, same old thing where, well, the taxpayers paid us to go there, we're sitting there waiting, what do we do now? We had it with somebody cardiac arrest right on Butler Street. They didn't even tell us the ambulance wasn't coming. So I called them. Yeah, can you give me an ETA? Oh, no ambulance available, they're gonna take it from Life Ambulance. Well, good to know, thank you.
Critical minutes.
But going back, talking about
Yeah.
critical minutes, don't call the fire department, call 911.
I
Protocol
know.
doesn't start
Does
until
not-
you call
The
911.
V9 board makes a difference.
No, it does.
We get that,
It doesn't make any
I'm
difference.
sorry.
I get that all the time. You know,
But it doesn't make, you have to understand, it does not make a difference. It just makes things take longer. You need to call 911 if there's an emergency. Because it does take longer to talk to Greg, and he's gonna tell you. when
Call
you
911.
Call 911.
I
You
guess
get everything in process.
My feeling about this is you obviously have a vision, and we hired you to run this place. We said you're the CEO, we're just the board. So I support whatever you think we should do, but we all, keeping in mind the long term of this
Right.
thing. How do we meld it together? Or if we don't ever, but still have one that can transport.
I think what we could do right now, and that's well said, is, you know, we just had the rust fixed on these trucks. It's gonna buy us time. If we lose one, we lose an engine, we come to the board and say, what do you wanna do? When you get a pickup truck, or you wanna buy something I can that we can put the gear in, we don't even have to transport. Again, we've had ambulances before, though, just a different chassis. So we have that ability, whether we use it or not, to transport, almost not a problem. To buy a new Expedition or a pickup truck will probably be, my guess is $75,000 to kit it out. So I'm thinking if we bought a used one, $75,000 to $100,000. But I'm not asking you to do that now.
I think it might be smart to start putting their toes in the water and keeping an eye out for a used one from a fire department. I'm sure there's a million of them from ambulance.
We put some feelers out from Brinley for four-wheel drive, cabin chassis, you know, and they'll on occasion send stuff. We had one, the last one was $190,000, it was a 2019. It was a premium chassis, it's a Braun, which is a premium truck. We can get a brand-new cab, brand-new chassis with a refurbished box for $200,000. That's what I would recommend to you, if we're gonna go new. But if we wanna introduce this, if we lose a truck, then maybe I would come to you and say, what do you think? Should we get something in the fire department used transport vehicle? That's what I would do.
You want a truck or you want a van?
Oh, boy.
You know, we've had both.
We have, so you're thinking about maybe your van that you have there, we could use that? I guess that's a no.
At some
I'm thinking of
point,
a truck.
at some point, I think Dan's right, that we need to start bringing the communities into this.
Once they see an ambulance here,
Oh,
then you're
God.
gonna be up, then when you do need the money, when we say, okay, we need 2 ambulances or whatever, now we're gonna be so up against it on our budget that we're gonna have to go to the voters, and getting the jurisdictions in advance of that is gonna be mandated. So I think we need some kind of demonstrated action to the jurisdictions, saying, letting them know what we're considering doing, and asking them to endorse, as close as we can get, to, endorse the notion, convey to us the responsibility, which we do not have.
Right.
That they have, that's an intergovernment deal, the same kind of deal that created this place. And
Yeah.
that's the only way that, other than that, we're just, we're gonna be the bad guys on this, I can see it coming.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna be
Until they
we're
need
gonna-
it.
until they need it, but that's one at a time. But when you're dealing with all the
Yeah, I
voters and you're
know.
saying, you know, and they're saying, wait a minute, you got $500,000 all of a sudden in ambulances, what the hell's going on? You guys are out of control, blah, blah, blah. The three jurisdictions will sit back like this, you know,
Yeah,
and we didn't know, what the hell?
And then they're all gonna say, why do we need this? We got 10,000 rental units here that, they're the people that are gonna use it.
No, but I think, as I say, I think getting the approval from the jurisdiction
I agree with you.
Getting the buy-in, yeah.
is upfront
Yeah.
Yes.
and important, and now it's easy, because it's easy, it'll never get easier for them to give that approval. It's only gonna get more difficult as prices go up and asks go up, and not my job, not your job, and all the rest of it. Now would be the time I would commission a draft of an intergovernmental agreement in support of this, and including in that, as part of that, they would convey that responsibility, which distinctly belongs to the jurisdictions, not us, ambulance service. They would convey that to us. All of a sudden, among other benefits of that, you'd have a formal legal understanding of who the hell's responsible for what, which nobody's got now. Maybe, I guess Fenville and that part of the district has it, but they're it, that's it. So, and as I say, with the township leading the way, assuming we can help, mold that into this kind of a request or an authorization, I think now's the time to act.
Well, the thing that makes me nervous is, okay, we have this transport unit. We roll up to a call in the transport unit. And we say to the person who's needing transport, okay, we gotta wait 20 minutes to make sure another ambulance doesn't come. And that 20 minutes will seem like, at least 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And, then just what's all the backstory on that, and you know how this town is. So there'll be a huge backlash because we had to sit there and wait to make sure that no other ambulance was gonna come. And that just makes me nervous to try to handle that. And I think we need to work with the communities to make them understand what we're getting into.
What would happen if, for example, under the situation Jane just mentioned, if you said, screw that, we're transporting? Where's the piper that's gotta be paid on that?
We would answer the medical protocol and have to have a justification. It could be, that's very probable. When you get somebody, when an ambulance company says, they're coming from Grand Rapids, we're not waiting. I'm not asking, I'm going. You know how many times we get that? Too often. Now they're coming from Grand Rapids.
But I think Dan's right, if we get the councils to agree to what we're talking about doing, basic transport, we're not gonna get into the ambulance business.
No, I just see this as.
What's the difference?
Dan, or basic transport or life support transport, there's a big difference, isn't there?
So, advanced life support is a whole different level, where a paramedic has to be there. It's a life support system. It's paramedic level.
There's more stuff on the truck, right?
Right. They can do more things
Yeah,
with
they
it.
can do more things.
There's also a premise where when you don't have enough paramedics and the availability isn't there, what do? Well, you get them to where they can be treated, 10 miles from the hospital. So in our area, basic life support is a very viable option. We are not going to be a substitute for paramedic. We don't want to be AMR or life. We want to transport when and if needed. And a lot of these, the ambulance is going to a lift assist. We can handle that. We're going to priority 3s. So that ambulance, we're dispatched to a fractured hip, priority 3. You're screaming in pain. Yeah, they're 40 minutes out. Okay, so what do? And then it turns into, oh, they're diverted from the 3 to a 1 or a 2. Then what? There are no options right now. So what you get is AMR being understaffed, under-equipped, and Light being understaffed, under-equipped. So there's just a void. We've got a spreadsheet that shows between 2022 and 2023 year-to-date where there were no ambulances available. In all my years, I don't remember having 8 or 9 of them in 1 year.
But who's going to explain to the general public the difference between life support and BLS? Because there I was screaming in pain. They told me I had to wait 20 minutes before they would transport. And you're saying, but we don't have the capability of transporting you. We don't have the paramedics, and we don't have, but are they gonna remember that? Or are they gonna say, there they sat, with an ambulance and wouldn't transport?
They had trucks with red lights on them.
Yeah, and they would
Why wouldn't they do
transport.
anything? That's what they'll say.
Yeah, that really makes me nervous.
I think, I would like.
Well, they can just wait for the other ambulance then.
Well, no, they don't wanna wait.
They can just wait.
They don't wanna wait for the other ambulance.
Yeah, but
They want you to take them.
There's
Just
protocol.
on education on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
I think
most
the
of what we
first
go
step
through on education.
Is creating a meeting with representatives from each of the 3 jurisdictions to just talk this, not present them with a legal document, but to explain to them the dilemma. And ideally, the outcome of that meeting is the drafting of an intergovernmental agreement that authorizes the fire district to provide basic life support. The other part of it, the outcome of the meeting should be, or the intergovernmental agreement should be the transferring of the responsibility for ambulance service at the basic life support level. The other one, that's still theirs, whether they like it or not, it's still theirs. But the basic life support, transferring that responsibility to us.
Well, maybe we should have another one of those meetings like we had for our budget, where everybody's here, and we can explain it.
I don't think you should, I just worry if you get that many people, it's gonna be challenging.
Why don't we start with the city managers and the township supervisor?
Yeah, that's-
And say,
Here's
Greg,
what we're
maybe one
thinking.
of, this is all we're thinking, what do you think?
Kathy, do you have a city manager yet?
They might, well,
Yeah.
in a couple hours.
Well, that's good. What?
So the only thing I have, worries me is the statute that we fund the fire department currently with is, I think somebody needs to ask Jeff or attorney, because I think that where we're raising the millage, a la carte basically, up to 10 mils, it says in that law, I believe it only says for fire services and police services. I don't know if ambulance, how does the 3 units fund it? The ambulance part of it. Because what was passed in 76 is for fire services. And I think that state statute that was written in 1951 says for townships or cities under the population of 15,000, they're in trouble with the SEV.
I think it's emergency medical service.
Is it emergency, is it?
It's not sealed now.
It says police and fire, I saw it.
Oh, we'll find out.
We need
Yeah.
to find out, because otherwise we get something going, then how do you fund
We
it? How do
we
you
aren't
pay
the
it?
first department
No.
to do this,
We should find that out first before setting the meeting, even a small.
Without paying it, if you pass something, then they say, oh, you can't run it to this millage, then the townships and the township, the 2 cities, then basically have to fund it through
Yeah,
their
you don't
general
wanna,
fund.
you don't wanna get it to that.
No, that's,
It's
and
never
I know
gonna get done.
departments that do that, their fire departments, there's no millage, they're just writing a check out of their general tax collection.
Well, I think,
Take a look.
like Jane said, I think if we have a protocol in place, and we do what we say we're gonna do, people are gonna bitch, but we can put a squash on that, and word gets out, and say, hey, we can't do anything about it, we did everything we can.
Right.
Look into the rules if you don't believe us. And then you're in the court of public opinion, and you squash
We
it.
don't have to transport.
Right.
Leave it all status quo. Yeah.
Well, and I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm-
we know the way it is.
I'm just playing
Sure.
devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at.
Yeah, it's a good point, Jane, you really have a great point, like,
And-
why didn't they do this? Well,
And our ambulance committee went probably as far as they could, and we need to start with a different committee now and talk about other things. And I think the legal aspects and what's in there is probably, like Peter says, it's probably important to go over that and make sure we're not stepping outside of our bounds. And, you know,
It's a good place to start.
I just think we need to proceed carefully, so we don't push ourselves into something we
The
can't
thing I
do.
keep highlighting is, as it stands, this is the jurisdiction's responsibility, not ours.
Right.
And no one knows that. And none of the jurisdictions will even raise, they won't even look at you when you talk about it.
Well, no, because it's gonna cost money.
Because, well, and it can conceivably be a painful thing, and they're all elected, and there we go. But, getting them in on this is critical, and it's critical up front, not later, because if you do it later, it ain't gonna happen, or it's gonna be just contentious, or there goes the fire department, or something, all that crap. That can get settled, and now is when it's easiest, I think, to settle it. To get those three people in the room, and then, you know, then craft the intergovernmental agreement, hopefully based on what the agreement of that room is, then get those councils, supervisors, or whatever, to vote on it, then we're good. Then we're good. And as long as it's in the state's authorization for us to be able to raise millage, then fine, then you have the millage, you know, fire district millage increase to fund basic life support, and you buy 2 brand-new ambulances, or whatever, it doesn't make any difference.
Well, I think maybe you use as a model when the city of Sagatuck left the police department and went to the sheriff's department. That was the most well-written thing I have ever read. It was very well done, it was very well thought out, it was very well studied. It was an excellent report, and we moved forward on it. So I think we need to, you know, vet out all these things that could happen before we jump into this.
I got another question for Craig, is when someone when AMR takes you to the hospital, they send your insurance company a big huge bill. Or will we be able to bill insurance companies by transporting them there? I mean, that would alleviate some of the taxpayers' costs.
Correct. You know, his whole goal, you know, would be a fee that would be established, that would be less, but there would be a fee established, and you would have an agency you would pay, typically 7%, to manage all the billing.
You can't manage
Whether it's
that.
Medicaid, Medicare, or insurance, so, you know, you have some. I know we talked to South Haven quite a bit, and Eggleston and Muskegon Township, and they're familiar with these agencies that do transport and billing services. So there's a couple recommendations.
South Haven does it within their police fire.
Yes, however, because of the deficit ALS, they are trying to get South Haven to come up to us, the Ganges, and they say, we're not going. They won't come.
I didn't follow what you said.
So South Haven is transport advanced life support. Well, AMR and Life Ambulance are not enough resources. So they call them from mutual aid to run the call. They said, we're not going. They notified me and they notified Chief Diaz.
They had a beautiful brand new ambulance too, I saw it.
Yeah. So that, they kept doing that. Matter of fact, Shays, South Haven Area Emergency Services, billed Life for all the calls, and they won't pay them because they said, well, we have no agreement. I said, well, then don't call us. So it's kind of an awkward situation when you don't have an ambulance. Now South Haven won't come. We've had fires where in Ganges where Ganges would say, hey, we need South Haven to cover our station. They go, nope, nobody available. So there's a lot to it that I don't think people realize.
Guarantee you they don't.
But we could just, you know,
So what is our next step after all this?
well, look at the public to act and see, you know, but I'm no lawyer, but if you want to give it to a lawyer, give it to a lawyer. But I can see what it covers,
Okay.
and then, you know,
That would be the first
questions.
initial step.
Okay, let's move on.
But I think simultaneously, there's no reason, I don't think, to wait to let the jurisdictions know. It looks like we're gonna wanna be getting together, or let those three people know, in the near future to discuss and strategize on this, so that we don't have to wait for 2 weeks for another fire board meeting before we can move even one half step forward. Because everybody agrees, it's like incredibly important that this get done, and get done right.
All right, moving on. Thank you from Community Church of Douglas.
Yeah, it's in your packet. Vacation Bible School, what we attended. I think we sent you all some pictures on that too.
That was the one where they sprayed the kids. That was elementary.
Yeah, it was a fun, we did it at the Vacation Bible, yeah, Bible School as well. So,
Also, signed Sean Marr off as a aerial operator that day too, to run that truck, so that was a good
Oh, good.
dual purpose.
The second thank you was, I believe in your packet on the last page, somebody who our crew responded to a call, was very appreciative. Sent you a $100 donation.
Nice of them.
Yeah.
Hey, from New Jersey, go figure.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Is there any public comment? Fire board comment? Eric, got anything?
Yeah, the township did a great job trimming back trees and cutting back brush out of the stop sign. Daniel was on it extremely quick, and I appreciate that. And so, yeah, the corner looks a lot better, and so does this corner here on North Street. Yeah.
Working with the chief, for the lineup of cars parked on the shoulder of Blue Star Highway, particularly any morning for Pennyroyal, lined up 6. And all you have to do is see that once and think about, well, almost every one of those cars is not a local person.
No, there was a bunch of them there today.
Yeah, there always
Yeah.
are. I mean, sometimes there's a dozen of them.
Yeah.
All you need to think of is some
there anything
little
we can do about
kid
it?
getting out of the back of one of those on the traffic side, thinking he's, in Winnetka or wherever the hell, where cars are going 25 miles an hour. These cars are, A, going 55 miles an hour, B, not looking for pedestrians, because they're not supposed to be there in the first place. It is truly,
It's
speaking
scary
partly
for
for Craig,
everybody.
this is an accident, a serious accident waiting to happen.
It is.
And among other things, not the most major thing, but to some of the people who need to act on these things, it's major enough that when that happens, it's going to be in the newspapers, it's going to be on television, it's going to be Saugatuck, not going to be the township, it's going to just Saugatuck or Douglas. So anyway.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
So it's a bit of a predicament, so we got a complaint filed at the department about the parking. It was one of the residents who lives there who can't even get out of his driveway. He has to pull the nose of the car into the lane to try to get around the cars, and felt he didn't get anywhere with anybody. The police couldn't do anything, because there's no parking signs declared.
Do you have to post no parking signs?
Nope, they have to do it, according to Craig Atwood, the Elgin County Road Commission Director, they have to submit a request for a survey from MSP.
Who has to submit it?
The township, the road commission. Township Road Commission to MSP. So I called MSP up, and she said, well, it would have to go through a formal process to be reviewed, and you have to justify why you want no parking there. So then I went to the township and said, what do you think, what do you want to do with this? I'm for a more peaceful approach. Why don't we talk to the resident or the property owner of Penny Royale and see if they would allow us to just talk with them about it. So we did. Daniel and I met with them, and she said, well, she kind of thought it was punitive at first, and we said, well, no, this isn't the only business we're having a problem with. I have a problem with jars. And we'll be dealing with them as well. So we offered, after speaking with the state police, Elk County Sheriff's Office, we all decided on signs. We would put signs out there. Please don't park on the shoulder.
Okay.
Something like that. And the road commission gave us permission to do that.
Okay.
And it's kind of a community risk reduction effort. And now, like, we brought this to them, and on Sunday when we went by there, they were on both sides of the street. Never seen that before.
Well, they're
So-
parking in front of the fire hydrant too.
Yeah. Yep.
But-
Here's the signs, kind of, it's danger, please do not park on the shoulder. And Craig Atwood, who runs that right away, said the shoulder wasn't designed to park on. So we're trying to work with everyone. We got permission to do the signs are gonna get made. We're gonna have enough signs made to take down to jars as well.
What are the signs?
So will they get tickets if they park there?
No.
No, we don't have
No,
any, we don't have any enforcement
No
around here, for
repercussion?
God's sake.
What you do have is.
We'll go to that next step if we have to,
You're gonna have to, I bet.
With some software.
but we're trying to do it
That would be the
without
police
that.
department's job to do
Well,
the chickens, wouldn't
the
it?
property owner said they didn't like having no parking signs in front of their business. What about the whole Blue Star corridor? So we're not having problems on the whole Blue Star corridor, we're having problems here. And then we also, you know, just further, if it's all right, so the delivery trucks were parking in there. That's a shared driveway, as you know. So the delivery trucks are parking out there. And we said, we really don't want to see that happening. You know, the shoulder can be very
Yeah.
uneven. What happens when somebody steps out, falls in a hole, they fall into the drive. And as the complainer listed, you know, people are doing 55 miles per hour, they're 2 feet away from you. We saw it as a real hazard. We wanted to address it. Law wouldn't do anything. It couldn't do anything. So this was a way to mitigate it and try it. And what state police and the county and the fire department concluded is, let's give it a trial of 3 months and see how it works and evaluate it. Season's gonna taper off.
I was gonna say, now
Yeah,
it's a good
that-
time to look at it. It's
Well-
June, July, and August.
Yeah, summer's over, you know,
Right.
practically, the, all the.
But it was a bit of a challenge getting to this point because no one would do anything. And why I came to the fire department, what am I supposed to do? More and more, we are in traffic.
Yeah, I don't understand
Yeah,
why
I don't
we're
understand.
involved with this. I mean, this is
Yeah,
not...
where we come
I'll show you the letter.
Oh, I know.
I'll show you the letter, said, nobody will do anything about this, so what are you gonna do about it,
I
Craig?
think it falls legitimately
Public
under
safety.
community risk reduction. I mean,
Well, yeah, but...
You know, we don't do it, what happened to me Saturday night? No police around, there I am, Water Street, Butler, all completely blocked with no deputy. And I let them know about it. Saturday night, 6 o'clock, no deputy. And you better get one here. So, there's a lot you don't know.
That's not unusual, though.
I know guys
No,
that have
it's
been
not.
parking illegally for 30 years, because no one's gonna write them a ticket.
Right.
You can park wherever the hell you want in Saugatuck.
That's
No
right.
one will write you a ticket.
So
that,
it's-
that agreement, you got rid of the police here, might have been written well, but I disagree with it, because now we don't have any enforcement.
Well, that's up to the city, it's already.
That's up to the city to tell them to
Oh, I know.
enforce it. They don't, but...
I think it's time to start doing that, and that was the problem we had. Well, this is township law in here, we're referencing that, and there is procedures. And it was, well, just ticket them, we can't ticket them, they won't write a ticket, they won't even go there. There are no signs there, it's not declared no parking, can't ticket them, they can park all along there.
But I'll tell you, if there was one guy showed up there that wrote a ticket for the guy that's parked in front of the fire hydrant, it might scare the hell out of the rest of them. And that is a place, you can't park in front
No,
of
you
a fire
can't.
hydrant.
Yeah,
I don't care if there's a sign or not.
But they don't own the right of way, and then they wanna put parking in the right of way, and Craig Atwood says, you're not putting anything in the right of way.
No.
And then they went landscaping, you're not doing it. He's not going to allow it, but he will allow these signs. We thought it was a great mitigation tool.
Oh, I
And he
saw
tried.
it there, yeah.
Isn't
And
that
it's
a
a- and
big
it's-
piece of property though? Why don't they provide more parking?
They added a big parking lot in the back, and I don't wanna speak out of turn here. I think if you drove in the driveway, it would be one reason why you don't take your car in there. It's all potholes. They can't get
True, it
any
is.
cooperation with the neighbor to pave it. They wanna pave it. These people are good
There's a
operators.
big fight there.
Oh, I know there's a big
But it's a
fight.
shared
Been
driveway,
that fight,
and the neighbors to the south don't want to do that, and the neighbors
Rather
to the
drive
south
through a
said,
pothole than leave my car parked out on Blue Star Highway.
yeah, me too.
No, but actually,
That's true.
some people don't.
they don't.
And
The other part of having those signs out there, I think, when an accident happens as it exists right now, a tragedy happens out there, people who drove that car are gonna say, I was parked, there were other cars parked, I just parked, there were no signs. You know, it's not my fault. Everybody's first response to this tragedy is find somebody to blame that isn't me,
Right.
and they will. So this, at
If
least,
they're out of town, they're not gonna know they can't park there.
Well, you see one, then they see another one.
That's right,
The owner,
that's right.
operator of Penny
Well,
Railroad
there's a
said
lot
that
of-
lots half
State
empty,
people.
and people are parking along Blue Star, and that lot's half empty.
the neighbor who complained owns the adjacent lot in the back, and he volunteered, I can help them use my property, it's just vacant land, use my property to park more cars if that's what they need. I mean, I'm not
And
sure.
one thing about it is, we talk about the season changing, so there'll be less traffic, but that's not true, because they close the outside. So now there's more people trying to get into a smaller territory. So it's not gonna end.
Plus, haven't seen them out there,
Yeah.
even regular people will go, well, what the hell, why am I getting parking in the back, walking all the way, I can park here.
We just figured we were at a crossroads where nothing was happening, it continued, and then I got this complaint. So I thought I'd better try to do something about it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it was our responsibility, but I got action.
That's not a fire department thing.
But I think,
It is when someone gets hit.
You bet.
but
Why though?
the root of the problem is the planning commission. Why didn't they tell them they had to put a big enough parking lot in for
We had
their...
to question them, they said they do.
Yeah, they do have, I think they do have, there's
They have
parking.
a lot,
no one's
get
not
to it.
parking. Huh?
They have 42
So
spots.
they don't
and
have a
they-
way to get to it. You have to maintain your parking.
Hey, welcome to
lot.
Saugatuck, you gotta park at the high school,
I can't believe the township's ordinance officer, somebody can't start writing civil infractions, $50 tickets for parking there, because you got a parking lot that's got 40 spots and nobody's in it, or the owners have got some responsibility to say, hey,
Do they even have signs that says parking in the back?
yeah,
Yeah, they
something
do.
like
They
that.
do? Oh, sorry.
But they're further towards
I
the
think they
main
need a
lot.
right in there to see it.
Yeah, there should be one right at the end of the driveway with an arrow parking in back lot.
Yeah, the regulars, they go in so they can see it.
And we actually had that on the sign that Dan drafted, and the owner said, no, I don't want to park in back. How do you know they're my customers? Could be
Oh,
the art
my
gallery to the
God.
south. Yeah, it's not so
How many
easy.
customers have...
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was a half a day of negotiating.
I
Dan, yeah.
I don't think you should have to negotiate.
I don't think I should have to be doing it either, but nobody did anything.
I know.
Not the
and I
county,
understand.
not the state police, nobody did anything.
I'm kind of thinking this is...
And
We
it
got the
actually,
job
in a
done.
way, it does affect us. Well, if there's a fire, we have to get a truck in, you know.
Well, we are about the health, safety, welfare of people.
Yeah.
This fits community risk reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It does.
We, like Eric said, we will all be in the 6 o'clock news,
Mhm.
what's happens. And that is an accident right there.
Mhm.
And I did what I thought was the best thing. I know I'm not defending myself to you guys, but I agree true, it was not, but nobody would do anything. Their hands were tied.
Somebody's got to...
Oh, we got police. No, you don't have police. That's the first thing. You don't have them all the time. You have them less now than you ever had them. Deal with it. So that's why we are doing more traffic control. I don't have anybody, I've got this, you need to put a fire department vehicle. I ain't putting a fire department vehicle here. That happens Saturday night. Not my problem. It never ends with traffic control.
No.
That's why there's
But
police.
you have to do it.
We could write a book on that.
Now.
All right, Scott?
I got nothing.
No, go ahead. Drew?
Oh, well, we've just discussed everything, where I am at.
I just want to, I'm remiss in not having written a thank you note. We're still in the process of doing that, but I certainly want to thank Chief Janik and all of the fire department for all their help with the nation. They were truly amazing.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They are.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, well, keep us posted on the...
I'll take a motion to
I'll be
adjourn.
watching this.
I'll make a motion.
Motion and second, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 All right, we're out.